Chucky here, smokineaglesrodshop. Unfortunately, Dustin's a little tied up today. I just wanted to stop in and say hi and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'd hate to have to come and pay you a visit. We got a really special video for you today. Hey, Chucky, are you messing with the camera again? I've had about enough of your shenanigans, dude. I thought we were cool. We really need to work on your attitude. And you're recording? Hey guys, I'm sorry. Whatever Chucky said, he didn't mean it. Dude's a little unstable. Might do what he says. What's this crap? Buick stuff? You want to do a Buick video today, Chucky? We've been waiting on some Go Fast parts for an awfully long time. Let's do it. Man, you gotta stop tying me up, dude. Can't get nothing done around here. So here it is, guys. All the Go Fast parts for Carmen Electra so that we can trash tires this summer in multiple burnout competitions, but most importantly, Cleetusandcars up in Indy. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Now let me break down these parts for you, kind of explain to you what they cost, why I bought them, and yeah, what options we had available. So, first off, let's talk about our heads. Now, my heads, if you watched me get this thing running last season, these heads were sketchy. My valves were trashed. Here's a little example of what my valves looked like. Even my engine guy was like, man, I can't believe you didn't drop a valve and trash this motor. Got super lucky. Well, if we're gonna get our heads redone, we might as well go to stage 1 valves. So, we've upgraded our valves. As you can see, there's a little bit of a size difference because, again, size matters. Anybody who tells you any different, she's just trying to make you feel good. We also had to upgrade our springs. Here's a stock spring. We went to stage 1 springs. You can see the difference in the coils there. Now, I've got this breakdown here of what everything costs. I'll put it on the screen right now. You can screenshot it, save it to your phone, or pause the screen, take a picture, whatever you need to do. Getting our heads redone, machine work, valves, springs, retainers, everything it takes to just get the heads done was $1,600. Now, I did have two other options. I could have got heads from TA Performance, their street eliminator heads, and there's also an Edelbrock aluminum head option. Now, those two options, if you go with the Edelbrock heads, they are $3,000, and you're probably going to get free shipping wherever you get them from. But everybody on the forums online says that they are mass produced in large quantities. So essentially, when they run low on stock, they'll run 50 sets at once. They just slap them together and put them on the shelf. So when you get them, you still have to do some machine work to them. You really need to look them over good and check everything. Maybe port them yourself to get better flow. And essentially, everybody says that stock heads are actually better than the Edelbrock aluminum heads. When you get them, you got to do a lot of work to them just to get them to keep up with the cast iron heads that you get from GM. Now, the other problem with those Edelbrock heads is they don't run the stock rockers. They run small block Chevy, big block Chevy style rockers. So you have to buy the rocker and you also have to buy push rods to make that work. And that's not included in your $3,000. So keep that in mind. You're looking, man, you're looking $3,300, $3,400 for a set of those Edelbrock heads. And then you got to do work to them to try and catch these heads. Now, the other option is a TA street eliminator aluminum heads, and those things look sweet. Now, they're $2,700 and they come assembled. They say that if you've got 10.5 to 1 pistons, you can grab 50 horse with them things, and they'll support 600 horse on pump gas and up to 700 horse in racing applications. And there's another and bonus to it. We went from 2-inch valves to 2-inch 130. TA street eliminator heads will hold 2-inch 260,000 diameter valves, which is, oh man, that is another 100 thousandths bigger. And some change. I mean, that's awesome. But again, these heads here, I've got $1,600 in getting these cast iron heads redone, and I've already ported them myself last summer, so they're in pretty good shape, and we know there's nothing wrong with them. TA heads are going to cost you $2,700 plus shipping, so you're looking at a price difference of $1,100 to roughly $1,500 to $1,600 if you go with the Edelbrock option difference from these heads. Now, these heads, for me, absolutely had to be redone regardless of what I did. And if I'm already buying the stuff, might as well go stage one, right? Because, again, my valves were sketchy. Now, with the heads, I also bought a cam. And I got a TA Performance cam. Now, they have 3 options available, essentially, with stock valve train. You've got smallest, bigger, biggest. And the differences are, the small one is recommended for 8-to-1 compression or higher, which is where we are. We're at 8.5-to-1, so that cam will work good for us, and it gives you 20 horse over stock. It's essentially a stock Stage 1 GM cam with a little bit of modern technology upgrades to it. They've tweaked the formula a little bit, per se, and got you a little more oomph. So it's kind of like a Stage 1.5 cam, essentially. Now, your middle cam there, it's recommended for 9-to-1 compression minimum, I believe, and it boasts 25 horse over stock. Now, we don't have 9-to-1 compression. The third one is 25 horse over stock and a slight torque advantage, and they want 9.5-to-1 compression minimum, and it's supposed to give you that nice kind of lumpy idle that everybody wants at the car show. Makes it sound like a race car. Sounds cool. Now, all 3 of those cams would work in my engine. The problem is the top tier 2, they want higher compression than we have. Now, we could toss them in there and it would run, but we may be giving up performance for sound, and we don't want to do that. We want to maximize performance out of this engine, and the only way to do that is to go with the first cam and not over cam this engine and then drag ourselves down. And again, the third cam, which is the biggest one, if I was going to go with any of the other 2, it would be the biggest one, right? Because go big or go home, size matters. It states 25 horse over stock and slight torque advantage. It's not even telling us how much torque advantage it's giving us. I assume that's because it depends on your compression ratio, and it covers a pretty good range from 9.5 to 10-to-1 or whatever, 10.5-to-1 up. I mean, you can put it in anything as long as you're staying with the stock valve train. So they aren't going to give you a hard number there, but in my mind, it's probably not much. And with our setup, it's actually going to probably hurt us a little bit. With that being said, there's some things that if you're just going to the Stage 1 heads, cast iron heads like we've done here, and the new cam, that you absolutely have to have in order to do that. Now, those items are lifters. You're going to need push rods. We're reusing ours because ours are still brand new. You're going to need break-in oil. You're also going to need cam lube and break-in them. And what else you going to need? Oh, you're going to need your gasket set here. Now, I did all the mathings for you, so you don't have to do none of the mathings. And the cheapest way to do this is to buy an entire engine kit of gaskets. You're going to have some extra gaskets, but it's cheaper than buying them all individually. You get some extra gaskets here. You can throw them on the shelf, keep them around in case you need them. And then you want to get a intake valley pan gasket, and you don't want to get the side two. You want to get the one with the valley pan, the sheet metal one that drops down. Now, the reason for that, a lot of guys don't know, is because the bottom of your intake gets super hot, especially if your exhaust crossover is working. The bottom of your intake will get super hot, and you'll have that oil sloshing around on your cam and lifters and everything. If it splashes up and hits the bottom of that intake, it's hot, it bakes right to it. Well, when that bakes right to it, what's that create in your engine? A bunch of carbon buildup
and garbage in there that's just gonna drag your motor down and create a big old mess. If you run these aluminum pans in the bottom, the oil splashes off the bottom of that aluminum pan. It doesn't get up on the bottom of your intake because it can't really get up there, and then it just helps keep buildup down in your engine. And it also keeps oil down where it belongs, like on your cam. Doesn't allow all that space in there for things to flop around. So that's my advice to you on that. Now, those aren't super expensive, but it's more money. Look, you're looking at another 120 bucks or so. If you reuse your intake, your carb, your manifolds, everything you can possibly reuse, let's say your engine runs fine, you're just gonna go to stage 1 stuff, right? The bare minimum stage 1 stuff. You're looking at 1,600 bucks for your heads, and you're looking at about 340, 350 bucks for all your must-haves. I got Permatex on my list here. Yeah, antifreeze if you need, you're gonna need antifreeze because you got to drain all that out. So with that being said, you're looking at $1,940. And I did round all these up to even numbers just for easy math. And that kind of buys you a tank of gas because you're going to be driving around looking for gaskets and stuff. Trust me, you're probably going to go to Rural King at least once and get a free bag of popcorn like I did to get these sweet intake bolts for our new intake. But that's next. What optional items did Dustin buy in order to maximize the performance of this cam and this head? The first thing I bought is this Edelbrock B4B intake. This is a dual plane, high-rise type intake. And Edelbrock actually makes 2 intakes for the Buick. They make the stock Performer, which everybody's heard of. And what it does is the carburetor is actually in the stock location, so it's actually back off center just ever so slightly. So on like a Grand Sport, your air cleaner and stuff, you don't have any fitment issues or clearance issues. Now a B4B actually moves that carburetor forward, centers it up over the top of the engine, so the engine can run a lot more uniform and you get a lot more power out of it. Well, when I say a lot, it's not 100 horse or anything crazy like that, but if you're going to spend the money on the intake, you might as well buy the one that gives you the maximum amount of performance, and that's what I've done. It also lifts the carburetor up about 3/4 of an inch from stock, and you can pick it up without being Hulk Hogan. I could have looked around and got a used one, which I tried to do, I'm gonna be honest, and I could not get my hands on a used Edelbrock B4B intake because I'm a cheap ass, we all know it, and I tried my hardest to get my hands on one of these things and not buy a new one because they are salty. Edelbrock is proud of these things. Just couldn't get one. Now, TA Performance does offer an SP1 intake, which is single plane, and it's the same price. It's actually just a little bit cheaper, but because we've only got 8.5-to-1 compression, and this car is plated, and I plan on using this engine for a couple of other things later on down the line. I want it to be somewhat streetable, so that's why I went with the dual plane intake here over a single plane. But again, like I said, that's kind of personal preference there. Not a big deal. This will work out great. Now, the next thing that I did is, like I mentioned, I wanted new intake bolts. Now, I could just buy them off the shelf somewhere. I just can't justify paying $30 for a set of bolts to go on my intake when I can just go down to the old Rural King there, get a free bag of popcorn. Depending on what time of year it is, you can check out the checks and get you some grade 8 bolts. They're even blue, which, I mean, that makes them cooler. And I think they were like $12 versus the $30 everybody else wanted me to spend. So I recommend doing that. Now, if you're reusing your old intake, you just reuse all your old crap. But again, this is all the additional stuff that is optional, right? Now, everybody online in all the forums said that I needed a 1-inch 4-hole spacer plate. They even recommended Super Sucker by name, which was not cheap. That thing was about 120 bucks, 125 bucks. But they said that with this setup that I'm doing, it's been tried, it's been done, right? Don't re-engineer the wheel. Don't second guess people. With a Buick 455, you want a 4-hole, 1-inch spacer. It maximizes the torque of the engine. If you have an open spacer, they say that gives you more horsepower, and 4-hole gives you more torque. And because a Buick 455 is a torque monster, we are just going to continue to feed that thing, and we are going to boost the torque as much as we possibly can. So that's what I've done. I bought this spacer. We'll see if it works. Now, I could have went to a swap meet somewhere, got a 4-hole spacer for 20 bucks. I even have one up in the loft in stock, per se, from who knows where, how, when, but it's open and it's not 1 inch. It's either 2 inch or it's like a 1/2 inch. It's either way too big or way too small. For what was recommended. And once you're in this deep, guys, you know, just buy what you have to buy, right? Now, with that being said, I also bought a couple of spare gaskets. They're a couple bucks a piece. You always want to have those laying around. Even though my spacer plate did come with a gasket and my intake came with a gasket, it's always good to just have an extra set laying around. I also had to buy the carburetor adapter kit to go with my carburetor here so we can hook it to our throttle, and I had to get carburetor studs to make it all the way through this big old spacer plate. And I went and I got this Holley 750 double pumper brawler carb, and it does have a choke horn on it because, again, like I said, this car does have a plate on it. I want to be able to drive it. It is mechanical secondaries, so we'll tweak that all in. We do not care about fuel mileage at all. I would be happy with 2 miles a gallon over 6 miles a gallon, because all I care about is torque, horsepower, and performance. Rah! And I just got to be able to drive it to the gas station and get gas. We like to take this car to car shows and stuff, guys, and it would be nice to be able to, you know, cruise it in a parade or something. And so having a choke horn on it, it's just going to start easier and be a little more drivable. Again, another reason why I went with the dual plane intake, because we aren't going to be driving this thing to Walmart to get groceries. I don't know, maybe we will, but it'd be cool to be able to cruise it down to O'Reilly's, maybe do a burnout in their parking lot and hang out with the local parts store guys or something. You don't know, cars and coffee or something. So I wanted to make it, you know, street-ish-able. Okay, now I know the carburetor is on backwards, so don't eat me up in the comments down there, guys. I just set it up there for visual reference, and it looks cool. Now, with that being said, I had to get the fuel line. It wasn't very bad, 25 bucks or whatever, and I even got the fuel pressure gauge for it, just because they had it in stock at O'Reilly's on the shelf, and I thought, 20 bucks, 20 bucks. I'm standing here, I'm looking at it, let's do it. And it'll go on there, and we'll be able to just kind of watch our pressure. Now, I am running a mechanical pump, so it's not like we can do anything, but if we got anywhere where the engine stumbles at high RPM or anything crazy starts happening, we will be able to visually look at it and see if our fuel pump is having issues keeping up or not. It shouldn't, but you just never know, and it looks cool. It looks like horsepower, so, you know. With that all being said, oh, I almost forgot something. Look at that. What is that? Now, headers for a Buick 455 are extremely expensive. They're like $900, $800, and they only give you about 10 horsepower. I've looked up videos, guys. They've dynoed it. It don't do much for you over your stock manifolds. And I ported my stock manifolds. So if you're going to do anything, I would say stay with your stock manifolds. Now, we are doing the burnout thing. So I found a place online, and I got these header flanges with 1.7" stubs. I have to weld them in myself, but that's no big deal. And I got the set for 150 bucks. Now, if you look up a small block or big block Chevy set of headers, brand new, you're looking at, you know, 200 to 300 bucks, which is about the standard price. Again, the Buick stuff's $800-900, which is just ridiculous for 10 horsepower. 15 horsepower, maybe 20. It's still $900 for 20 horses, just ridiculous. If it was a small block Chevy, couple $100, $300 for 20 horsepower. Not a bad choice. Go to a swap meet, pick a used set of headers up for 50 bucks. Boom. That is some cheap horsepower. But you can't find used headers at a swap meet for a 455 Buick. Trust me, I know. I've been looking. I'd pay $150 for a used set, but they're just not out there, guys. So anyway, enough rambling about that. Got these for 150 bucks delivered to the door. And what we're going to do is we're going to build our own custom exhaust. No, we're not going to go out the bottom of the car, go into some X-pipe, put mufflers on it, all that stuff that makes your mom and your neighbor happy. We ain't doing it. We're going straight out the sides of the fenders. We're going to make this thing loud, proud, and as little restriction as possible so we can get maximum horsepower and maximum coolness factor. I want this thing blowing frickin' noise and exhaust right at the crowd so they can feel like they're in the car with me doing the burnouts. So that's the plan. I think I don't know if I'm gonna bend the pipe myself or not. We'll have a video on making our custom headers for sure, because that'll be a fun video to do with you guys. May have to go and get the pipes bent somewhere, but I've got a plan on how to do this. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will let you guys know. I think I can make these custom headers for under $300, which again is going to put us about standard small block to big block Chevy prices on a brand new set of headers. And we'll be able to reuse these on different applications if we were to ever, I don't know, build another car, build another engine, and we needed these header flanges, or I could just buy another set of them. I mean, they're 150 bucks. They are a little expensive, but they're not outrageous. As long as you have the ability to bend your own pipe and make your own pipes. And I have a pipe bender, just don't know if I'm gonna have time to do it myself. So now, we've went over all the super sweet go fast stuff. What's this cost? Well, guys, at the end of the day, we're looking at 1,600 bucks for our heads, $340 for must-haves, and $1,448, might as well say 1,450 bucks for all the upgrades, the non-essentials. But that all being said, you're looking at 3,388 bucks. Might as well round that up to $3,400. And again, I didn't buy a timing chain and gear because mine's only got like 15 gallons of fuel on it. It's not wore out. I didn't have to do anything with my oil pump because we've already upgraded that. You guys may have those things to deal with. So keep that in mind when you're kind of kicking this around. But I think this will give you a really good idea of, you know, your 74 Buick Electra. You want to go to a stage 1, you know, for $2,000 essentially. You could have your heads redone and you could reuse all your stock stuff, and you're going to get some performance out of it. Probably pretty close, if not a little more than the 20 horse this cam is stating you can get. And if you go with extra stuff here, again, if you could find a used B4B aluminum intake and a used carburetor, I didn't want to have to rebuild a carburetor and screw around with that. If I have issues, I want them to be known. I don't want to try and give myself speed bumps. But if you've got a known good running carburetor, you could upgrade your carburetor off that stock carburetor for less than what I paid. You don't have to have a chrome fuel line. You don't have to have this spacer plate. You could bolt your carburetor directly to the spacer plate. That would save you a little bit of cash. But yeah, at the end of the day, 3,400 bucks. We're going to maximize the horsepower we can possibly get out of this thing with 8.5 to 1 compression pistons. And I think this car is gonna rock the house this summer. And yeah, Jason still won't tell me what his plans are with his engine. So competition is steep around here, guys. So let me know in the comments below, do you think Jason's gonna build a better motor than me? Or is this big block Buick gonna run the show this summer? I'll post some other videos around my melon here of stuff we're doing around the shop. Hopefully some of that piques your interest. I guarantee you'll have fun watching it. And yeah, let us know in the comments below whatever you want to say. And like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. Don't forget, I'll have links in the description for all this stuff. We are Amazon affiliates, so if you follow the links down there and you go buy any of this cool go fast stuff, it will help the shop out. Doesn't cost you anything extra, just helps us out a little bit. We do have merch available. No white flags. Till next time, keep on wrenching. Peace.